Hi guys, welcome back to another video, and today's video is part 3 of me drawing the Demon Slayer character's eyes. Okay, so on the last poll, we ended up getting 3 votes for 3 different characters, so I put them into a wheel to eliminate one of the 3 options, which ended up eliminating Shinobu. I started off drawing Tengen's eye because I had drawn his eye before and knew it would be a good warm-up. And based on the previous eye, I have actually improved quite a bit since I first started doing this, even though it's only been 3 episodes. As I sketched, I made sure the lines were extra dark so I knew those areas were meant to be filled in with black, like I have done with every eye in the past. And I would actually consider the top bit of his eye being the hardest to do because I hadn't ever drawn his eye in this more relaxed pose. I then began to sketch out his eye makeup, which looks like a virus, and it's not like I have anything against the makeup, but I think I would like to draw his eye without the makeup around it, because I hate drawing that makeup with every fiber of my being. It causes me so many issues. Even though I do like how it turned out in the end, I'm just not a fan of the makeup. But the most issues it caused me was almost being off the paper because of where I drew the eye at. After I finished my sketch, I went in with a kneaded eraser to lighten the lines. But because I am very heavy-handed, it didn't lighten the lines as much as it would if you were drawing lighter. I then lined the eye with Sharpie, going around all of the areas I wanted to have a black outline with the Sharpie. And you've probably already noticed me doing this several times throughout the video, but I had a bug bite on the back of my hand. I still do while recording this voiceover that I didn't feel like covering up with makeup, so I just kept trying to keep it covered with the sleeve of my hoodie. I made sure to fill in all of the thinner areas like the tip of the eyeliner and the under bit of the eye with the thinner Sharpie instead of the thicker Sharpie, so that way there was a lot less risk of it bleeding outside of the original lines I placed. Then went in with a lighter skin tone, outlining the area that was inevitably going to be cut around once I cut it off of the piece of paper and stuck it into my sketchbook, where you can also see where I was hitting the edge of the paper. Normally I would just be quickly filling in the entire area, but because of the eye makeup, I ended up going around that, and you can notice that I didn't put lines around it because my reference picture didn't have the deep lines around it, so it made more sense, especially because it was makeup, that it wouldn't have outlines and it would just be there. As much as one part of me wanted to just ignore the eye makeup and color over it, I knew that could mess with the red color that I put on later on and make it bleed, so I decided to do the correct thing and just go around them. I then went in with a tan Sharpie for the shadows above the eye where the eyelid would be. Then after swatching where my camera couldn't see with a red marker, I started to color in Tengen's eye makeup, which was a lot more satisfying to color in than it was to sketch out. I used a pretty vibrant red because his makeup is pretty vibrant, even though in the reference image his face is shadowed out. Then I repeated covering in the shadows with a deeper red in the areas the shadow was with the skin, making sure it lined up properly. Then I had went in with a magenta pink color for the lighter part of the eye. And because that marker was a little dry, I went over the area I think twice with the Sharpie, or just was there for a longer time to make sure that the ink was nice and thick. Then for the top parts of the eye, I went in with a dark magenta color, making sure to match the colors as well as possible, and these were actually the colors I used for the original eye. I also made sure to blend the colors really nice and smoothly together as well as I could. I even went as far as to use a colorless blender, even though it didn't exactly do much, though that is probably because I had already blended the colors as much as they would blend together. I then went in with my white gel pen, completely blocking what I was doing, and smeared out the edges like I had done on previous eyes for the highlight bit underneath the color of the eye. Well, not underneath the color, in the color of the eye, but I made sure to smear it out because it was kind of like highlights, just like I had done on every single eye before it. And if you're ever going to do this, make sure you don't have anything on your fingers because it will end up messing with the white color of the gel pen. Then, after adding in the shadows of the eye, I had finished. And here is the finished product of the eye. I personally really like it and think that it is much better than the first eye that I had done for Tengen. And like in the videos before this one, I did a collage for Tengen. Also, if you think Tengen's eye was the better out of the two, leave a sparkle emoji down below. Now we are moving on to Inosuke's eye, and I actually ended up making this eye a lot bigger than I had originally planned, to the point where it didn't fit on the page where I had put Tengen's eye before it. I'd started making the eyes bigger without realizing it, probably so that way I could add more detail. While sketching out Inosuke's eye, I kind of lightly added where the white bit of his eyes would be, so that way I could gauge how far apart the top and bottom of the eye should be. And when I tell you, I struggled to do this man's eyelashes like never before. I would even go as far to say it was more difficult than drawing Nezuko's eyelashes. And you can actively see me putting off drawing his eyelashes by drawing everything else beforehand. Because your girl hates drawing eyelashes with every fiber of my being. It is just something about them that is incredibly difficult for me, so I of course hesitated even attempting to start them and very much dreaded drawing them. But because of the series, I have actually gotten quite a bit better at drawing eyelashes. Anyways, as I was drawing the colored bit of his eye, what was kind of going through my mind was the second darker green bit, not directly in the middle, but the second circle, I don't really know what to call it, stop sign shaped eye bit. I didn't understand how, because of the black ring around it kind of in a little bit, but I was really worried about coloring that in. And as you can see, I am deeply struggling with the eyelashes already. It took me several attempts to get the eyelashes right, and I started with the middle one, figuring it would be easier to space them out properly. But I still hate drawing eyelashes, and that will probably never change. Which is the only reason I dreaded putting Inosuke's eye as one of the options on the poll. After I finished the sketch, I continued the same process of lightening it with my colorless blender aggressively and almost wrinkling my paper. And then I had to line it and line every single eyelash, which I hated. I didn't mind lining the rest of it, but I very deeply much hated doing the eyelashes. Anyways, moving on to the colored bit of the eye, I did it kind of rough and sketchy, kind of like the reference, where it's not just one solid thin line, and it's not one solid thick one either. After repeating the steps for lining, I went in with the same lighter skin tone for Inosuke's skin. And I actually originally avoided the shadow area, aside from when I was lining around the eyes, until I realized that my tanner skin tone needed the lighter skin tone to actually go down opaquely, because it was starting to dry out, so it needed the other markers, juice, and more alcohol to actually work. You can see my poor Sharpie struggling to color on the paper, and I was pressing down so hard during this time, and I was so confused because it did work just fine 10 minutes prior when I was coloring in Tengen's eye. Then I swatched where you could actually see me coloring in his eyebrow, which I don't exactly know why I decided to add it in, but it felt out of place not having it there. I then ended up picking the perfect green for the lighter bit of the eye right away, which I would consider very lucky, being the fact that there were tons of alcohol markers that I was borrowing from my mom to use for this video. I then went in with the dark green, filling in the middle circle first. And throughout this entire process, I was crying internally at the fact that the very thin black line that I had put to separate the two wasn't visible at all on camera. But aside from that, I started trying to blend the colors together with a colorless blender, which my mom so politely said wasn't actually meant for blending. Which is also where I messed up by picking up the paper and getting very annoyed because it leaked onto the white part. Luckily, my white gel pen didn't decide to throw a fit and actually worked to cover up the green that had leaked into the white part of the eye. I then went back in with a dark green, which I'm 90% sure was the correct dark green. I don't even know now, but I went back in with that, attempting to re-blend it with the lighter marker, which I grabbed the wrong one immediately, thinking it was the correct one, and didn't swatch it because I was trying to rush, but I decided it would just be better to add it there and then blend it out a bit with the lighter marker, which actually ended up turning out pretty nice. After I finished coloring in the green, I immediately went to fix my mistake on the white part of the eye where the green had leaked out, which is when I also added the extra detail to the white trapezoid-shaped highlight in his eye, making sure to blend it out so that way it more smoothly blended into the green. I then colored in the shadow part of the eye, where the area that I had to fix kind of got in the way and looks a little strange, and I had also used the gray to slightly darken the eyebrow. Anyways, here is the finished product of the eye. I really like it, and I hope you do too. And just like I did with Tengen, I made a little Inosuke collage. And if you liked Inosuke's eye more than you liked Tengen's, then make sure to leave a boar emoji down below. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video and enjoy the eyes that were chosen to be drawn. And if you liked the video, make sure to leave a like. And maybe while you're down there, hit the subscribe button. Bye guys!